Detective Hercule Poirot has amazing skills that he uses to solve any crime that happens in this century. But while on vacation time, there's no rest for crime with this death on the Nile. Directed by Kenneth Branagh, who directed many movies including Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Hamlet, Thor, Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, Cinderella, the 2015 version, Murder on the Orient Express, which is a movie I really love that also starred Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. And if you don't think I had to go over and over and over and over and over again in my head to get that name even remotely correct, then you don't know me very well. He also directed Artemis Fowl, and even the best can have a goddamn misstep. Also, nobody could save Artemis Fowl. Check out my review of Artemis Fowl. And he also directed Belfast. They haven't gotten around to, but I heard it was really, really fucking terrific. It was also, well, based on the novel by Agatha Christie, because Hercule Poirot is one of her best characters. Also written by Michael Green, who wrote the 2011 Green Lantern movie. Oh boy, okay, we're not starting off great. Logan, okay, that was pretty goddamn good. Alien Covenant, alright. Blade Runner 2049, okay. And Murder on the Orient Express. And more movies, Call of the Wild and Jungle Cruise, OEOEO. And yeah, I've seen some of those movies and I've, enjoyed most of them. I didn't enjoy the 2011 Green Lantern, but it is what it is. But Kenneth Branagh returns as Hercule Poirot, the detective, inspector, any title you want to give him, the genius with the fancy mustache and the particular set of skills that he uses to solve any crime, break it down, figure out, which people are lying, what they're lying about, if they're lying, is it real, is it Memorex? Oh wait, this is in the 1930s, we can't actually have Memorex yet. But in this, it obviously takes place after Murder on the Orient Express. And in this movie, what's nice about having a director and main actor, as the same person, is when you have somebody as skilled as Mr. Branagh, you can get some really, really good components and a really good cast if you play your cards right. And this does have a terrific cast that I had to write down. It has Lynette Ridgway, played by Gal Gadot, who is definitely the eye candy of this movie. My fucking goodness, Gal Gadot is absolutely beautiful. And Bock. Bock. I tend to screw these up because Kenneth Branagh has a French accent. But Tom Bateman, who will be familiar to people, that, check out his IMDb. He's a, great, great actor. He's been in a lot of really good movies. Euphoria Boone, played by Annette Bening. Annette Bening turning in a terrific supporting performance, by the way. I haven't loved her in something, right off the bat like this since, American Beauty. And she's been great in other stuff since then and before then, but I'm just saying she really does make the most of her screen time. And then you get Russell Brand, who plays a doctor. And it's actually pretty good here. This movie made me not mind Russell Brand. That is saying something. Also, Rose Leslie was in this as Louise. And then we get various other... Armie Hammer was actually in this. And Armie Hammer was shockingly not annoying and insane. Like, apparently he went after the Lone Ranger movie. And Letitia Wright, who was really, really great here as well. And Sophia Okonedo. I'm pretty certain I butchered that. She was in Hotel Rwanda. This cast of characters and craziness and the period set in 1937 really just, lends credence with great cinematography and to the fact that it just captures the period perfectly. And Hercule Poirot, we get a bit of a backstory on how he came to be, and I'm going to save that for spoilers just in case, anybody worries about that, but we get a bit of a backstory as to how he came to be, and then we flash forward to this time, and he's going to go on vacation. And then he sees his friend, played by Tom Bateman, who's just flying a kite on the pyramid. What are you doing on the pyramid? And this kind of stuff. What the hell is going on? Why is this happening? Why are you doing this? Why are you defiling these great, this great architecture? And since they have a friendship and everything, obviously they have a camaraderie. So that actually lends a little bit of, good, just good storytelling to this, because you can sense that he really, even though Hercule does not let a lot of people in, he likes him. And that's good, even though he has a good camaraderie with him. Also, during this time, we get introduced to the characters of Simon, played by Armie Hammer, and we get Lynette, and we get, we get Luis. We get various people in this. And it seems like a love, was like going between Simon and another woman. And then all of a sudden, he falls for Lynette. And then flash forward, there's a jilted lover, and there's all this stuff going on, and everything, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. I've had stalkers, and I know how that shit is. It gets really goddamn scary. Yeah, sorry, brief spoiler. There is a bit of a, thing about that. There is a bit of a stalker element, at least in the early going. Don't worry, it doesn't last way too long. And are who is actually like really the bad guy? Who's really the bad person? Are there multiple bad people? Does everybody have layers? The answer to all those questions? Well, there obviously are bad people. Otherwise, if there was a movie called Death on the Nile, no goddamn death happened. What the fuck's the point? Why don't you just call it fun vacation time on an old-timey steamship with some pyramids and a whole bunch of stuff on the Nile, which would be really, really hard to put on any marquee and on any ticket and on any notes, so they just call it Death on the Nile. And Hercule is tasked with coming aboard while Lynette, played by Gal Gadot, and Simon, played by Armie Hammer, they're in love, but they're being stalked. They're being stalked by one of Simon's former lovers, and like, you need to help us. And it's like, and he says, well, she hasn't really committed any crime. There's nothing I can really do, but she's stalking us. You have to do something. Well, Lynette's rich. And obviously, whenever riches are involved, there's going to be multiple suspects. And from there, we get on the ship. But obviously, we get some setup here before. We get a bunch of characters. Annette Bening's character and various other character actors that have been in various British movies. And a really, really good... I can't put over how great the cast is. And the cinematography, fucking sumptuous. You get soaked in and drawn into this thing. It literally leaps off the screen. The color scheme is great. The camera work is phenomenal. And there's subtlety here. Now, even though I enjoyed the remake of Murder on the Orient Express quite a bit, and I enjoyed the original. Don't get me wrong, the original was really good. I thought the 2017 version was a nice update. It was pretty good and did the best honoring the original material while keeping this in mind. I have seen the original Death on the Nile. I couldn't really tell you, if you offered me $1 million, a lot of stuff that happened, but I remembered enjoying it because it's been a number of years since I've seen it. But it was really good, and I was interested to see how they were going to do this remake, and this remake ended up being phenomenal. This is going to be one of my favorite movies of the year. Even though, and again, I'll get into spoilers here in a little bit, I did call it right away. Like, that's pretty much it. It's kind of easy to figure out. Even though they try to give you this idea, oh, it could be this person, it could be this person, they could have this motive, and all the motives make sense. Eventually, it comes back to what I originally predicted. And I would imagine, and you can let me know in the comments if you'd like, but please put a spoiler thing for those that haven't seen it. But I would imagine some people can probably figure this out. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world if you can figure out this type of movie, because you enjoy the performances. You enjoy the lush landscapes. The beautiful cinematography, the shots of Egypt and everything, and the sets are really, really good. And it's also not overly done to the point where it feels like it's not even fan service, but feels like it's gloating. Like, oh, look at me. I got all these people and everything. I could do this. No. Kenneth Branagh is a terrific actor and a terrific filmmaker, and he understands exactly how to make a great film and also build and build and build stuff. And when you have an element of, the main character having more of an investment this time because of a friendship with somebody on the case this time, then it sort of adds a little bit more to it. And as things go on, we start to see, like, oh, okay, it's not this person, it's not this person. Okay, we can rule this person out, but it's possible it's them. This could make sense. Why is this person wanting to do this now while somebody's on their honeymoon? Why in the world would somebody do something like this? I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible, but everybody's doing some things that don't seem out of character, and then suddenly they'll just switch something, and Hercule will catch it right away. And that's a great thing about this movie, is the performances are great. And Kenneth Branagh, he's not going to get an Oscar for this, but he should at least get consideration, with a Golden Globe, I would say. Because he does turn in a very terrific performance that, once you find out more, like, as far as that, prologue and everything, and you find out more about why he is what he is, it adds a lot more to the character. Now, I don't remember how many books Agatha Christie did of, Hercule. So if they do more of these, I would be all for it. Kenneth is 62, I think, now. So he can still turn in a few more performances if they decide not maybe necessarily churn these things out. It's been about 4.5 years since the Murder on the Orient Express came out. If they can do that, if they can, churn these movies out till about 70, then it'll be fine. You could always bring somebody else in to play Hercule. But it would be almost like not quite like replacing James Bond, but kind of like how, if you get used to a certain character, like in a detective drama, and you replace them, it could be a little bit much. But as far as performances are very fucking good. Letitia Wright, in particular, really stood out. But there were a lot of standouts here. Gal Gadot, I'm just going to say, and this is going to sound completely dickish, but like I fucking care. It's a good thing that she is basically a living, breathing goddess as far as her look. She is fucking gorgeous and stunning, and she better hope that she continues to get millions of dollars from the roles that she does, because she's an average actress at best. She's probably the weakest of this, though she's not terrible. I just think as far as serious acting, I think Wonder Woman was probably her peak. She was fine in Red Notice, but not great. But that might be the only complaint I have. But when it gets to, nut cutting time, when it gets to hitting the pedal to the metal and things start to happen, the crime, takes place, and we get this stuff going, then things really kick into high motion with a bunch of interrogations and everything. So that's really where the movie plays to its strengths, because it has great set pieces, it has great camera works, and again, cinematography, can't gloat enough about that. So I'm going to absolutely recommend you guys watch this movie. Now, you could wait until streaming and rent it on Amazon and stuff like that, but this is something cool to see in theaters. I used a pass because I literally live 6 miles from a theater. And as long as that theater is playing something at the correct time on a Friday, I will absolutely go and watch it. And plus, who knows how long theaters are going to be open, so why not enjoy movies like this? So I am going to get into spoilers, but I absolutely recommend you guys go watch it. So spoilers. Okay, spoilers. Okay, so you're still watching spoilers. So Simon and a woman are together. And then she introduces him to Lynette, played by Gal Gadot. And a romance blossoms. And we flash forward a whole bunch of years later, and it turns out or not even a whole bunch of years, just a bunch, some time later, and Lynette and Simon are married. Well, there's a jilted lover. You don't ever want a jilted lover. A jilted lover that conveniently keeps popping up every single goddamn place. Somehow. And Lynette's rich. And she knew Lynette. And had a thing with her where they were friends and this kind of stuff and everything. Gee, I wonder who the killer ends up being. Well, despite the fact that it could be Lynette's lawyer, it could be this mother, it could be the doctor who's a former lover of Lynette, played by Russell Brand. It could be various people. It could be Bach. Could be him. It's not him, but he factors into events that took place, like, there's this lavish necklace and everything. He ends up taking that. And then this, maid, helper, for Lynette, ends up getting killed as well, because she witnessed something happening and then got paid off and then got killed because, things just kept piling up. So what it turned out is that it was Simon and his former lover. Why? Because money, and he needed the money, and she was going to find a way to bilk them out of a whole bunch of money, and maybe the lawyer was involved. We're not really totally sure on that part, but that was the way to do it. She stalked because they were all in on the goddamn plot. That's pretty much it. Also, when your friend gets killed and you're a detective, you may get a little bit more invested and a little bit more emotional and a little bit more But eventually, what ends up happening is, well, Simon didn't realize that the woman that he was with was nuts. And in efforts to basically prevent them from going to jail, after some guns were used, what happened is he pretended to shoot himself or get shot in the leg by her, so he could go up. He used some red paint on a handkerchief that he conveniently had on his leg. Couldn't use nail polish. He had to use paint that was stolen from another woman's easel. And he went up, shot his wife in the head, and that way they could get the money. But then, because the maid saw that, they had to off her with a scalpel from the doctor, and then she was found in the water wheel and everything, because it's an old-timey steamship and everything. And then basically she ends up, realizing, oh no, don't worry, I'll take care of it, and she ends up shooting him in the back and shooting herself in the chest, and they both die together because love. Am I right? So the backstory I referred to, that basically solves the crime, by the way, even though there are other people that are still pretty fucking guilty. Back to the whole prologue thing I talked about that explains how Hercule became who he became. In 1914 in Belgium, I don't remember the exact bridge, but it was during a war, and he gets his general. He's part of an army, and general gets these notes. Okay, wait 3 hours, wait for the wind to go this way, and we'll use gas, and we'll flood these people out of this bridge. Hercule uses his superior intellect and the fact that he understood the stuff before he had the fancy mustache, and says, hey, no, look, the birds are doing this. We're just going early. We could surprise them. We could do this. So they do that. They end up overtaking the bridge, and the captain says, great job. And then he doesn't realize the tripwire's there, and boom. And then Hercule has his face, all, beat up and on the lip and everything, stuff like that. And his wife, who's also a nurse, or his lover, I don't know if they were married at the time, but I know they ended up getting married, which factors into the story a little bit later. He says, what, you could love me like this? And she said, doesn't matter. She did love him. And you could grow a mustache, and that's, where that comes from. But then we find out sometime later that he didn't fall out of love. His lover ended up, being caught in an attack, basically, an explosion that ended up killing her. And so, therefore, he couldn't love again. Well, then, Sophie's character, Salome, who's a jazz singer, and she has her daughter played by Letitia Wright. They're jazz singers. He kind of falls for her a little bit because they kind of, get a little bit, they don't necessarily get together, but there's like an example where maybe he could find love, but that doesn't end up factoring in much to the story, though. It does cloud his judgment a little bit of a tweak. It is pretty nice, but overall, I gotta say this movie's pretty goddamn good. So I'm gonna say A+. A+. Really, really good shit. Is it predictable? Yes. Could this grade be considered high? Sure, but I really had a great goddamn time. The movie flew by the way. It's about 2 hours, 7 minutes. It flew by. There are some movies that are 90 minutes that drag. This flew. So yeah, A+ for sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.